I'm John Greaves III, founder of Garage Life Media. And while a lot of people train for athletic prowess on the football field, on the competition platform, there are those of us whose dreams of athletic aspirations don't quite work out the way we want. That's what happened to Travis Brown. Although Travis never ended up either surfing for a living or being a professional basketball player, he does still get to surf, and he happens to be the owner of a successful fitness brand. Let's find out about his journey from skinny surfer to fitness entrepreneur right after this. Travis, hey man, I'm so glad to talk to you, dude. It's amazing to have someone who's achieving success in fitness to still be willing to take time out to talk to people who are like the regular people or whatever. And so I appreciate you for not only taking time out to talk to me and share some of your journey with me, but also doing it on New Year's Day. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, so we've got some pictures up on the screen of what you look like now, but you started your fitness journey as a skinny surfer kid. So if you could go back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell him?
You know, if I went back to high school, to be able to tell myself something more so than the talking about my physique or fitness or how to train, you know, it'd be more like how to think, you know, like I had like a lot of people, I had two dads, you know, my real dad, my stepdad. And if I could tell myself anything, it would probably be, you know, slow down, take sports and life a little less seriously, and listen to your dad a little bit more. Like, both my dads are just incredible people, and they had so much to teach me, and I gleaned a lot, but I was so dead set on being the best basketball player I could be, and so dead set on just being my own man. If I could have just spent more time with my fathers and just looking to learn from them, because, you know, as I've gotten older and been out in the real world more and, you know, just learn what really matters in life, all the lessons that they did teach me, the things I did listen to, are the things that have really mattered in life.
So let's go back to this muscle thing, since you are the owner of a fitness brand. So for
Yep.
you, being skinny for so long and just not happy with your physique, what were some of the most important factors in just finally being able to put some muscle on?
I think, you know, the body type of people who grow taller very quickly, part of that is they just have to realize, like, you are not going to put on size as you grow taller. Like, you kind of have to hit. You look at all the players in the NBA that are hitting these growth spurts, like, you know, like it's once they kind of finish growing taller that they do start to put size on. You know, you look at all these skinny guys that have come in the NBA, like even guys that are stacked now. Look at Dwight Howard, that's got like shoulders that are just massive, and he was just, you know, triangle. Like, he didn't get that way until he stopped growing, you know, height wise. Right. You know, the sports and the things that you do as you grow up, it I believe that it kind of almost sets the tone for your body type. So for me, like, I played basketball, which is a up and down, constant cardio sport. And when you play ball, like, you don't just play a game at a time. You drill, you play by yourself, you start playing 21, then you run like 10 games of full court, a few more games of 21. And then, like, oh man, if I don't get home, like, I'm gonna be in trouble. You know, like, it's almost like you're a marathon runner, pretty much. Okay, like, you're just going, not. And so it's almost training your body to not hold muscle, you know?
Gotcha.
And so when you grow up doing that nonstop, you look at guys who are football players who train in the weight room, and they train for explosive short bursts of power. Those guys that started playing football at 14 years old and played through 18, 19 years old, like, they keep that football player shape almost the rest of their life. You know, it's like they've established a body type that holds muscle, you know? Right. When I played basketball in high school, you know, they put us in the weight room, but it was like, hey guys, go in there and lift. Like, it was no like, hey, here's your strength program. You know, there was no program to it. There was no nutrition side to it. There was no recovery side to it. We may have, like, gotten a little bit stronger, a little bit more shapely, but there was just so many things missing. So I started training kind of bodybuilding style about 10 years ago. And I did a lot of things wrong. And, you know, I wanted to change physically. I wanted to put on muscle. So I went in and started doing 3 sets of 10 of every exercise under the sun. And over time, I learned splits, and I learned, you know, how important rest was, and I learned nutrition and recovery and all these things. But I would say, you know, about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago is when I actually started putting on size. There's no secret to it. It's the key things. It's number one, nutrition. Like when I actually started tracking my macros, setting my macros appropriately, and making sure I was getting not just enough calories, but enough protein, enough carbs, enough fat, that made a world of difference. Number two, when I started training my split appropriately and getting a split that worked for me, that made a world of difference. And not just going into the gym and lifting whatever I felt like, or just benching every day, like actually having an appropriate split for growth. And then number three, recovery. Like I wanted to grow. And so I thought training every day was the key to making that happen. Or the longer I was in the gym, the more I would grow, which is totally the opposite of what actually happens. Recovery is the most important part, and taking those rest days. And so when I started taking my rest days, tracking my macros, and had my split down, and then the last thing was progressive overload. Like I never really fully understood progressive overload, because to me, I was like, I just want to train. I just want to lift to look better. So I don't care how strong I am.
Okay.
I'm never gonna have to lift a car in real life. So like, why do I care how strong I am? I just want to look better.
Right.
And so I didn't really understand that with getting stronger is where your physique is really going to change. So, about 5-6 years ago, when I actually started tracking my key compound lifts and trying to get stronger progressively, with that goal of getting stronger, is when my physique actually started to change. So those real four things are when I went from like 170 to, in about 5 years, I gained about 35 pounds.
So as hard as it may be for someone who's been in fitness for a long time to believe, there are still people who are just now getting into this, who still look at supplements as being the key. And I mean, you're a supplement guy, you're a brand ambassador for BSN, but you didn't mention supplementation as being one of the keys, right? And I think it's important. I mean, I take supplements and everything else. I mean, I'm 47 years old, so I take supplements, joint health, all kinds of other things as well. But I love the fact that you talked about just look, basically, you got to have quality calories, or there's nothing for your body to build muscle tissue out of. And I think that's huge. The other thing is when you were talking about your split, finding the right split for you. Did you ever like get a coach to help you, or did you just kind of experiment on your own?
About the same time that Fit Ink really started popping off and doing well, I got hooked up with a good friend of mine, Aaron Baslow, who's one of the top trainers in Southern California. And he just started, just, hey, Trav, what are you doing? What's working for you? And just through conversation, he just helped some things click for me. And so I never actually hired a personal trainer, but I will tell you that the few conversations I had with him about training helped so many things really click. And I'm a big research guy. Like if I'm thinking about something, like I'm deep dive researching into it. And I had everything he told me, I had read it before, but just the way that he presented it and the matter of factness of like, Trav, like you're going to spin your wheels for everything. Look at the result for forever. Like look at the results that you've gotten. And this is what you're doing. Look, this is what you need to do in order to get where you want to be. And it's science. You're not going to get around it. So you can either do this and get the results you want, or you can not. So he really helped make a few things click for me. One being macros, two being like I wanted to grow. So like one of the key things was, macros, tracking, and comparing that to growth. So, I would set my calories, my protein, my carbs at, one place, and I'd get on the scale Monday, same time, same situation, same, every single Monday, and I'd weigh myself on the scale. Okay. And if the scale had dropped or was the same, my calories went up 50 calories. Okay. And appropriately into carbs, protein, and fat by percentage.
Right. I got you.
And if the scale had gone up, my calories stayed the same. And every single week, every single Monday, I weighed in. And if I was the same or less, calories went up. And so I started at like 2,700 calories. And, now I eat about 3,600 calories a day. And that's where I'm at right now. But still to this day, if I get on the scale, if my weight is the same or less, my calories go up 50 and every single day for that week. And if my weight is up, then my calories stay where they're at. Okay. And so that's definitely one of the keys for me to continue to be able to keep growing. And it keeps my metabolism. Like now I burn 3,600 calories a day. I can eat, so much and I just burn it. And so the few times that I've cut, like I can cut, and at the bottom of my cut, I'm at like 2,500 calories, and I'm still eating a decent amount of food. In about 8 weeks, I can trim 12, 15 pounds, and it's not tough.
You just made all of America hate you just with that last sentence right there. In 8 weeks, I can trim. I got you. I understand though, because like you're talking about training your metabolism. That's something that I've heard multiple people. Stan Efferding talks about it. I've heard Lane Norton talk about it, where like you're almost like building your body's ability to process things metabolically. And before we go any further, one thing that people need to understand, part of the reason why you're on here is, yes, you are the head of a fitness apparel brand. But people need to understand that, like a professional athlete, your business depends partially on you being in shape. You have to be able at some times to take off your shirt and display on camera that you're walking the walk, right? So anybody watching this who's like, hey, I really want to make changes in my body, this is a guy you listen to, because his livelihood depends in part on being in shape. So you had seriously, if you just heard that, rewind it and listen to it again, because it's going to definitely benefit you. However, you said macros and you said quality food. And I happen to know that your wife said that baking is her spiritual gift. All right. So you got a wife that bakes. So how do you fit cause I know you ain't going to I got a wife. Okay. You're not getting away without trying this stuff. And then especially if you really like it, how do you fit the stuff that she makes into your meal plan for, let's say, for that week?
Well, one, like I'm a simple guy. I like simple things, like super simple things. So like a lot of what she makes, she'll make brownies, she'll make blondies, she'll make biscotti, she'll make cakes and cookies and all kinds of things. But they'll have like bits of like Reese's cups or M&Ms or things like that inside of them. And so a lot of times when she makes stuff, they're usually for other people. So like I do okay not getting into that so much, because I know like a piece of that blondie, I'm like, okay, that's 400 calories. Like I'm going to use 75 carbs on that. Like I'm my poison is in her baking cabinet. There are a plethora of Reese's cups and M&Ms, and like I can eat just one at a time, just one little Reese's cup. Yeah. And so that's kind of where I struggle a little bit sometimes. But the thing is, when I eat it, I put it into my Fitness Pal, and it becomes part of my carbs and part of my sugar for that day. And so now I just, if, once my carbs are used up, okay, now all I get to eat is protein and fat the rest of the day. But luckily with training my metabolism and firing that thing up like a furnace, I get I get 370 carbs a day. Like that's a lot of carbs, I mean, the key is whatever you do eat, while sugar is not great for your body, if you're going to eat it, put it into your Fitness Pal and adjust accordingly the rest of your day. And also I never start my day with that stuff, because just, not eating for 8 or 10 hours and then starting your day with sugar right off the bat, like not a good idea,
You're going to just make people hate you like throughout this entire interview. Because what you just said, my brain interpreted it as like, oh, I ate too many Reese's cups, so now all I get to have for the rest of the day is bacon. Like, what? Hold on now, because you said protein and fat, right? Okay.
Right.
Poor guy. So the cool thing too is like your wife is into fitness as well. She said that you're her hero, especially since you guys met each other when you weren't successful. You said you were sleeping in a Volvo on a mattress to where you are now. And so you guys seem to have developed sort of like this partnership, and your wife says you're her hero. How does that feel?
She's like an angel, man. She says the nicest things, and I mean that's very flattering. But we've come a long way. I think March is 13 years that we've been married, and we've come a long way. We didn't start out in a bed of a Volvo station wagon, but we've had some times that were rougher. I don't like to play the victim. I think playing the victim is kind of glorified in certain situations, but we've been through some tough times, and some of the times tougher than they needed to be, because we were making sacrifices to invest in our future. We didn't have a lot, but what we did have, we tried to invest, and we tried to invest wisely. And we were, early on in the early stages of our marriage, we were trying to make investments that would pay off in the long term rather than being comfortable in the beginning.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, is there ever like pressure that fitness and you obviously love it, but is there ever pressure that it's going to like overpower your life? There's like, we just I know you guys take vacations and stuff, like where you just like, okay, we're going to put the phones down and we're gonna actually unplug. And I don't mean take your iPhone into the woods and take a picture of yourself in the woods to tell people that you've unplugged. Just saying, you know what, man, this weekend is just me and her and the dog, and we're just gonna kind of just because we're more than just our apps.
I think that synergizing your workflow and your life flow is very important. And I think that's step one. If you can stop thinking about work as work and just thinking about it as it's your life, and try to synergize what you do into your normal life and turn off that, like, well, I'm at work and I'm at home, but just make it, just enjoy yourself having one synergized good time. That's step number one, because you'll need those like total disconnects a little less often. And then the total disconnects, like you're talking about, I think that's very important. So for us, last December, we spent the entire month of December in Nicaragua. I've been going to Nicaragua the last like 14 years, and it's a third world country. It's socialist, and it's about a third world gets. There's no middle class. It's upper class and very, very, very lower class. And for me, I love Nicaragua. One, the waves are really good, but two, it's just a very simple way of life. The people that don't have anything, they don't know that they don't have anything. They don't know any different. They don't know covet. They don't know envy. They don't know jealousy, because nobody has anything. But they are the happiest, most friendly people I've ever met. And so I go there because it gives me perspective, and it helps me when I come back here live really simply. We try to live as far below our means as we can. And going places like that and trying to disconnect and spending time just the two of us, it gives us perspective on where and how we want to invest our time and energy and money, and the things that are just totally unnecessary. And while it may not be a month in a foreign country, I do think that just getting away outside of your normal environment and investing, time with your spouse and trying to just realign your priorities on what really matters, so you make sure that you're focusing your efforts on the things that do really matter to you together, I think it's definitely important.
There's somebody who's watching this is gonna say, okay, yeah, great, but you go to Nicaragua and the people there are poor, but if somebody gets sick and needs to go to the hospital in your family, they can go to the hospital, right? You've got the money, you're successful enough to just take them to the hospital, get a doctor, whatever. Somebody in Nicaragua gets sick, they don't know how they're gonna get health care. So is there ever like pressure when you go there to kind of be like, man, I got to do something for these people because I do have the ability to help them?
One of the reasons I enjoy going there and have been there so many times is I feel like my tourist dollars are appreciated there, like versus going to like Hawaii and I'm just one more gringo and a sea of gringos and they don't really want you there in the first place. Like I go there and like the chef that we hire is very appreciative of a solid month of work paid above what they would normally make, and the maid and the masseuse and the house that we rent, and these are people that are just happy to have work. And I feel like the money that we're spending there is making a difference, versus in years past, like I would go with just, like I have access to a lot of clothing. So I would go with just suitcases of clothing and just give things away to the masses. And clothing is not so bad, but things like sunglasses, shoes, things that are far outside of the norm of the stuff that they normally see. What I didn't realize is it creates a disruption in almost their social ecosystem. Like one kid now has a pair of sunglasses, and none of the other kids have ever even seen a pair of sunglasses in person before. Well, now you've got a situation on your hands. Like all these kids want that one pair of sunglasses.
Yeah. You gotta get them sunglasses and kung fu lessons at the same time.
Yeah, like you gotta get them security. Now this poor kid needs a security guard,
Yeah.
So like it's, like while we want to help, there's also, you have to understand the social ecosystem of what you're going into, and there's only but so much that you can do without disrupting their way of life, and they're really happy how they are.
There was a book that I read at the time I was an elder in our church, and so we were looking at different ways that our church could become more active in communities. And one of the books that I just I've said, however you want to look at it, I stumbled across it. The Lord led me to it. The book was called Toxic Charity, and it was talking about how, so let's say you fly to a third world country and you build a church, right? You don't charge anything. You guys build a church. You go back home and you feel better about yourself. But what you just did is you prevented any of the local construction companies from being able to make any money by being the ones to build that church.
Right.
And so they said it's better to put the money in the hands of people who are trustworthy in the local area because they know who to hire so that it actually ends up, like you say, benefiting the local economy instead of you just flying in there and kind of being like the savior to kind
Right.
of save the day. And so I like what you said about like basically you gave them a way to earn money in a way that gives them respect and dignity as opposed to just showing up and handing them free stuff. Now it's like you're like their daddy. Let's talk about your home gym. We have this awesome home gym that you guys have built. You talked about how meticulous you are. And anyone who watches the video, and you guys, right there, you guys can just click right there, and you'll be able to see you can click on that link and go watch the video, and then come back and watch the rest of the interview. But you guys built this home gym, and I think it's awesome. But it looks like basically like you took a commercial gym, a public gym, and you brought it home. So now you don't have so much like what people think of as a home gym, as you have a private commercial gym at your house, and that's where you're sitting. You're sitting in there right now. So how much did you know about home gym culture before you built the home gym?
In March, when all the gyms got shut down here, I had a buddy who had a home gym in his garage that was about a mile from here.
Okay.
And he had the basic. He had a rack, a curl bar, a dip station, some bands, just the basics, a trap bar. And I immediately started working out in there because like the commercial gyms had closed. Just a heads up, where we live, our nearest commercial gym is about 50 minutes away. So it's 50 minutes.
Either way,
and yeah. So for me, like I'm really busy as it is, so to drive 50 minutes and then, work out for an hour and a half and drive 50 minutes home, like it's almost half of my day. So I started working out in his gym and I just fell in love with it. Like the door being open air coming in, and just me. And it was a 1-car garage, but it had like 18-foot ceilings.
oh wow, okay.
Super high ceilings for some reason. So it felt bigger than it was. I loved it, partially because like I didn't have to stop training altogether. I had always thought like, what if I had a gym at my house? But you can't. Where I live is the ocean is literally 1 block that way. And
Yeah, you live in a flood zone.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
not just. I live in the middle of the ocean. Like we are 26 miles off the mainland of North Carolina. The ocean's right there and right there. It flood, like when it rains, it floods. Like it rains an inch and my entire yard has 3 inches of water in it. Like when you start digging into the ground here, in 8 inches, you hit the water table. So I've always thought about building my own gym, but it's just tough to build anything here. The codes and the permitting is just tough. So when I started working out there in that garage gym, I immediately thinking like, man, I need something like this in my house. And weeks went by, and I started researching basically what it would take to build a gym at my house. All the meanwhile, I'm working out in his garage gym. I've been going to commercial gyms for 10 years. I've had the Fit Ink brand since 2015. And since 2015, I've been to and toured and spoken at some of the nicest, just coolest commercial gyms in the world, all over the world. And so I have a love for commercial gyms, but I started to develop a love for that small little garage gym, and I was so thankful for it. And the longer this year went on and things were shut down and my business was impacted and affected, I started thinking like, man, like how long is this going to go on? What are commercial gyms going to look like in the future? And how is this going to impact my brand? And it started to solidify more and more in my mind, like I need my own space. And so I started to think, man, if I'm going to build my own gym, I want it to rival the coolest commercial gyms that I've trained in, for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to be super motivated to always train in here, not just right now, not just this year while it's new, but 5-10 years from now, I wanted to still be just pumped. And two, just for the content side of the brand, how difficult it is to create content. And also from being a business owner, like you wear so many different hats. And like, today I've got to put on a hat of corporate law and figure out, why my orders held up in customs, and what are the legality of that. And then I got to pick up a camera and take 2,500 shots the next 5 hours. Like it's hard to trade those hats. So when you're trying to create content, you really need to be inspired, And so I wanted to create a space that like, if it's time to come in here and shoot content, I'm excited about it.
what's the most surprising thing that you've learned as you've transitioned from being a gym member to being a gym owner with your own home gym?
I'll tell you, like, one of the biggest struggles I've had in the few weeks that this has been completely done is taking my rest days. Like, I'm just so excited to come down here and train every day. Like, every day I wake up, I'm like, oh, I got to take today off. Like, all my joints, you know, like, and
I got you.
like the day will go by and the sun will set and it starts to get dark and the lighting in here is really good at night. Like, I worked with the lighting engineer to get the lighting like just how I want it. And so it gets dark and then I'm like, well, maybe I'll just go get a little pump, do a few sets of bench, you know, and then I come in here and 2 hours later, I'm like, oh man, my joints, you know. Also, just the garage gym community like has definitely been surprising, you know. Something I've noticed a lot, like I've definitely gotten a lot of, so the gym's gotten quite a bit of exposure in the little bit of time that I've had it, you know. I didn't expect that the garage gym community in general would be so opinionated. So, you know, like
I can't wait to hear this. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I had no idea. I figured it would be a big community and the camaraderie and the people into it, and you know, a lot of people want to, you know, chat and learn and you know, but the amount of opinion that's out there. Some of the things I've heard, like you have high ceilings and you don't have a climbing rope. Like, what a waste! Your gym sucks. Like, because I don't have a climbing rope. Like, we all have different, you know, styles of training, different things that we do that we look for, you know. And you know, I put a lot of thought into exactly what pieces I would get. And you know, a comment that I get a lot is like, hey, what, you know, the gym that you have is not feasible whatsoever. And you know, I think what I see in a lot of the garage gyms that I see is like, I'll see, you know, it's a small space, but in that small space they have like 25 barbells. They have like 30 kettlebells. They have like 15 like sandbags. They have fat grips on all 100 dumbbells that they have. Like 100 pairs of fat grips on all 100 dumbbells. They have like
your sermon.
They have like 5 different weight vests. They have like, you know, 10 different specialty bars, Duffalo bars, like parallel, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I can only imagine that they have 25 barbells because either one, they were a deal, so they bought them, which even if it's a deal, but you didn't need it, you didn't save money by getting it. You spent money by buying something that you didn't need. Or 2, because it's only $300 to $500 at a time, they get that piece because it's attainable at that time. So you have like a room full of a bunch of stuff that you're not necessarily using versus like I was very strategic in planning every single piece that I use, every single workout that I do that body group on that day. Like, I don't have a single thing. Like, I have 2 barbells, you know, like I don't have a single thing in the gym that I won't use every single workout. So instead of like buying a million different things over 10 years that I got because it was a deal, I just strategically planned on buying only the things that I absolutely had to have.
So, yeah, I think it's hilarious because my dad, who's certainly not into home gyms, but I remember him saying something to me. He said, you know, you can go broke saving money.
Yeah, exactly.
And he was like, you know, you can go shop sales, but if you don't need that thing, you're still spending money that you don't need to spend, right? And I know, so I remember I was having a conversation with somebody and I told them, you know, that I had gotten rid of something, right? And they're like, oh man, I can't believe you got rid of it. And I said, well, I don't use it. So I sold it so I can buy something that I will use. Maybe not even something that I will use in the gym. I remember, for example, I had a set of dumbbells, right? And at the time, my dumbbell rack went 70 pounds, and then there was a gap all the way up to 120. And I mean, I could use the 120s, but I didn't use them for a lot of things. So I said, well, let me sell these 120s. And instead, I think I bought stuff for the rest of the house, right? Stuff that wasn't even fitness related. I said, I sold these and I used that money to buy something that we needed for the house that has nothing to do with fitness. You're going to regret selling those one day. I mean, maybe, but you know, I still have to budget. Like, I'm a gym owner, you know what I mean? And just like a gym owner has to think about things beyond just the equipment they have in there, they got to think about the furnace, the lighting system. They got to think about how much, I don't know, well, nowadays, how much hand sanitizer do we need to purchase for, things like that. It's not just the weights. And I think a lot of people buy stuff based upon what they see. And I also think that a lot of people, because they've been in this home gym community for maybe between 2 to 5 years, they're still in buy stuff mode, right?
Right.
So, unlike me, I had the blessing of coming into being in that buy stuff mode when there wasn't a whole bunch of stuff out on the market, right? So
Right.
I kind of escaped narrowly. So by the time now I'm at the point where I feel like I don't need anything else. If I buy something, it's to just upgrade something I already have. Um, I'm able to resist the allure of a lot of stuff that's for sale. A lot of people who are in buy stuff mode right now, though, are being bombarded by different bars all of the time. And especially now, you got a lot of equipment companies who are coming out because they see that there's a need for barbells in place.
Mm.
And so they're constantly trying to, like say, hey, we're fighting for your dollars. And nobody ever thinks about the fact that, like, you already have a barbell. And so they'll hear things like, well, that bar maybe, is no good at, anymore. And I'm like, okay, well, but the reality is, and I mean, this is not to diss anybody. I don't think I'm strong enough. But I mean, I'm looking at you. If your deadlift is 300 pounds and you bought a barbell that's got, let's say, 1,000 pounds, well, let's not even say that, 600 pounds tensile strength, the likelihood is that bar is still good 5 years from now. And if it isn't, well, you shouldn't have bought it in the first place. You certainly don't need to buy another bar to add to it. I'm like, buy nice, don't buy twice, right? Go ahead and get it. And then if you get something like a kabuki bar or something like that, well, then you can pass that bar to your grandkids and they'll be able to use it and give it to their grandkids. And that's better. But I think a lot of times people look at like athletes who are high level athletes who are switching stuff out constantly because of the needs of their sport. And they think that they need to do that too. The other culprits, and I don't mean this in a negative way, this last part, is the home gym reviewers. So you got people who make their living off of reviewing equipment, and they perform a very useful service because, again, you have people who are trying to put together their home gyms, and they need to know this bar sucks, that bar is good, right? The problem is a lot of people who follow these home gym reviewers don't take into account the fact that this guy is changing bars out constantly because he's getting financially compensated for getting these bars. He's not paying money for I mean, I get stuff sent to me now that I don't have. I mean, I got more than one massage gun, okay? How many massage guns do I need? I don't have like holsters and a bandolier. I can walk around with my massage guns, right? So I usually give them away. So I understand you're getting stuff sent to you. If somebody were to follow my example and see how many massage guns I have, they're going to be buying massage guns with money that they should be using on something else. So I really love the fact that you identified a cost and benefit analysis, which I guess comes out of the fact that you are a business owner and you're going to look at things differently. Like, what do we need and how's this going to impact our bottom line?
Right.
Having said all that, how many people have asked you to use your gym since you built it?
An infinite number. Yeah, it's been a lot for sure, which is cool,
I want to know, I don't want to know about whether you let people in. What I want to know is what's the most creative way somebody has requested to use your gym?
It's I would say the most outlandish way is
that's the one I want to hear.
The same way people ask for like merch all the time, like I swear I get hundreds of DMs a day. Yo, let me get a shirt, yo. Like I'm like, is that the way the world works? Like what? Like what?
Oh yeah, because I wear it and people would know I wear it, and then I'll be repping your brand. Oh, thanks.
And I'm helping you, because I know people.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
All 5 of my followers.
Yeah, my global business really needs that. Thank you so much. So yeah, just we get a lot of those. Yo, let me come over and use your gym. Just out of nowhere, and that's kind of it's a little weird.
So why'd you use Arsenal Strength to outfit your gym?
I reached out to several different brands and just kind of explained who I was and what I was looking to do. And Arsenal Strength, one, they got back to me in a way where I felt valuable. So like that was step number one, is just like I felt like just their initial response that my inquiry mattered to them.
Okay.
You know, right now with what's going on in the world, like every fitness company, you know, is overrun. Like they just have way more inquiries than they can even deal with. So the fact that they got back to me, like several companies got back to me, but they got back to me in a way where I felt like my inquiry mattered to them. So right off the bat, we had a kind of a good working relationship. But then from there, like I actually took a trip. We went all the way to Knoxville, Tennessee, and toured their showroom. Got to try out all the equipment that they make, got to meet the two owners of the company, got to tour their entire warehouse facility where they manufacture all of their equipment. And it was amazing. I mean, the fact they're water jetting out like the nuts and bolts of, they make everything from scratch. And the fact that they had like several hundred people working there, it was a US based business. They're making all of this stuff from scratch, just the culture of their brand. I just kind of felt like, man, like I can stand behind these guys. You know, like I met the owners, I know the story, I know the stuff is made here in America, and all of that I really connected with. And then just their equipment, just how it's overbuilt, the way that it looks, the way that it feels, all of the plate loaded stuff, just the way that it targets and the way that it hits, just how heavy duty, like the benches themselves are just like, I don't know how much they weigh, but like I think my adjustable pin style bench is like 130 pounds or something. Like it's just super heavy duty stuff. In the past, I used some stuff from like Rep Fitness, and like, you know, I'd mess around like whenever I'm in like Walmart or Dick's Sporting Goods, or like, and I'd mess around with some of that stuff that like is right there on the showroom. And just knowing the difference between some of the stuff that's made for like the home market versus the quality of stuff that's made for commercial level gyms, that, you know, that bench is expected to have a person on it, after a person on it, after a person on it, after a person on it, for 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's what it's designed for, versus, you know, something that's designed to have somebody on it for 30 minutes at a time, 3 days a week. Just the commercial feel is just really, you know, that robust feel is just kind of what I was looking for. And then when I got to go, you know, tour the factory, meet the owners, hear the story of Arsenal Strength, hear where they came from, and then just seeing what they're doing in the industry and how more and more of their stuff is showing up at the top level gyms all over the world, and knowing that it's a kind of an up and coming brand, and just kind of all of that stuff put together just kind of solidified like, hey, these are the guys I want to do business with.
So we talked about brands. I want to close out by talking about your brand. You had a really good quote. Said, the place to improve the world is first in one's own heart, head, and hands, and then work outward from there. So how does that work out practically in your life as a husband, as a lifter, and as a business owner?
I think that the world that we live in today is one of the most opinionated times that I've ever seen. You know, everybody has their opinion on everything, and more so than just their own opinion, they think that it's super important that they vocalize and impose that opinion on others. And most of the time, it's not in an actionable, healthy way. It's just talk, you know. It's more disruptive than anything. So for me, I just believe, you know, there's so much as people, as human beings, that we can do in ourselves to clean up our own self, our own household, our own world, our own little bubble first. Like, are we behaving the way that we should be behaving as human beings? Are we treating others the way we should be? Are we running our household, our finances, our reputation, what we stand for? Are those things in a healthy place to begin with, before you're just kind of running your mouth about what you think and how you feel about this person, that person, this situation, and that situation in an unhealthy manner that's really not affecting or causing change in a positive way? So for me, I just believe there's a lot of things that are somewhat outside of my control, but there's so much that's within my control. And how I behave, how I treat others, how I run my finances, how I run my house, how I relate to my wife in our marriage, how I run my business, how I treat my employees, all of those things are within my control. And I can change my little world, my bubble. There's a lot that I can do to impact those people in a positive way, that I would rather invest my time into making a positive impact in those things than focusing on all of the things that are happening that are outside of my control.
We talked about how people approach you the wrong way about merchandise and saying they'll represent you. Talk about some of the right ways. If let's say somebody wants to be a Fit Ink athlete, or they just want to work for Fit Ink. They're like, you know what? I like how this guy sounds when you talk about synergizing your life. I would love to work for a company like that. What are the skill sets that you guys are looking for? And how do you want somebody to approach you if they want to work with you guys in any capacity, whether it be brand ambassador, athlete, or the person that answers the phone?
I say this is a great question, because I think that it's done the wrong way, not just for us, but for a lot of people that are trying to partner with a lot of different brands. And the fitness industry right now, there's it's up and coming. Having a healthy lifestyle is trendy now, and there are apparel companies, equipment companies, media companies just popping up day after day.
Right.
And if you want to be involved with a company, there's a right way and a wrong way to approach that company. And because people see this person and that person being affiliated with this company and that company, and they look at that person, judge that person, and think, well, they look this way and I look better than them, I should just DM that company and they'll want me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all about just how they look. There's so much that goes into it. So for Fit Ink, one, they need to be aligned with who we are as a brand. And who we are as a brand, like, I didn't start Fit Ink as an apparel brand, and I certainly didn't start it in thinking like, well, we're going to be a global apparel brand and ship all over the world. So when I first got into more of a healthy lifestyle, there was just so much judgment that came along with it. There was like, oh, you don't have to train that much. Like, that's obsessive. You don't have to track your macros. Like, that's obsessive. Like, what, you're going to work out instead of coming out and going to the bar with us? Like, that's obsessive. Like, why do you live your life this way? Why do you restrict yourself in this way? And there was just so much like misunderstanding and just judgment that came along with just trying to live a healthy lifestyle. And I knew that judgment, it was the same exact judgment that I got for being tattooed.
Yep.
And like, you're getting another tattoo? Like, don't you think that's obsessive? Like, what are you gonna think in the future? Or
are you gonna get a job?
How are you gonna get a job? What are people gonna think of you? What do your parents say about that? There's all this stuff that's just so judgmental. And so like, when I had gotten heavily into a healthy lifestyle and I was tattooed, like, I was just getting it from multiple directions. Well, I had a few friends that like were getting into more of a healthy lifestyle at the same time that I was, and they were also tattooed. So we almost felt like a little club of like kind of the people that were like, and I wasn't doing incredibly well, and we were kind of like the little club that was like the people who weren't supposed to make it, kind of the outcasts, kind of the people that were judged and that were misunderstood. And we were just getting constant, like, just judgment, So I made a t-shirt and it said, it had a Fit Ink logo across the chest, just on a black t-shirt with white print. And it was just kind of for our little group of people. And I had 24 of them made. And there was like 4 or 5 of us. And people literally started coming up. This was in Southern California. We spend our winters in Southern California most of the time, except this year because of what's going on. So we were in San Diego and we were in the gym and we were all wearing our shirts. And every day people were coming up to us going, Fit Ink, like, that's me. That's who I am. Like, right. How can I get one of those shirts, And it, I started selling shirts out of the back of my trunk. Literally, whatever I would tell people that was the price, they would pay it. And I realized, like, wow, like this brand, people connect with this brand in a meaningful way. Like, it means something. They identify with it and it means something to them, And Fit Ink just kind of took off from there. So like, Fit Ink is an apparel brand that is about living a healthy lifestyle that has like deep roots in the fitness and the tattoo community. And so like, when somebody wants to be involved in our brand, they need to understand that. They need to understand the health and wellness, the fitness community, and they need to understand the tattoo community and the judgment that comes along with that. And they need to realize, like, Fit Ink exists to give people like that a home and a tribe where they can feel like they're a part of something and they're connected with a team of people that not only understands how they live and what they're passionate about, but supports them and isn't going to tell them that they're obsessive or weird for having a tattoo or for having their life experiences as art on their body, but is going to say, you know what, I'm proud of you, and you're a badass for being committed enough to get that ink, or being committed enough to do that workout, or being committed enough to track your food, or being committed enough to change the way that you look. I understand the commitment that goes into that. You're a badass and I'm proud of you. Like, they need to understand that culture before they want to be involved with the company. And number two, like, the biggest thing is, if you don't live and embody the look and feel of the brand already, it's probably not the brand for you. So like, if I was trying to get on with Nike and you look at my page, if I DM Nike and say, hey, send me a shirt, I'll help your brand, yo. Like, and they look at my page and I'm in all Adidas and don't own a single, and I wasn't wearing Nike in a single post, Nike's gonna be like, who is this guy, you know? Right. And so, like, you know, when, you know, you approach a company, like, if you have never bought anything from that company, don't wear that company already, don't rep that company already, don't love that company already, don't embody what they are already, it's probably not the brand for you. Like, right. if you wear all Flag Nor Fail, like, reach out to Flag Nor Fail. If you wear all Live Fit, reach out to Live Fit, you know. But if you're going to reach out to a company, make sure that you embody that company, that you have that look down, that you have that lifestyle down already. You know, Fit Ink has a very specific look. Like, all of our stuff is very uniform. It's very brand driven. It's all synergizes, you know. Yeah. And if you think that Fit Ink is the brand for you, like, make sure that aligns with how you like to dress and how you like to present yourself and how you like to think already.
I remember somebody said to me, I don't remember which brand it was, but it's like, basically, when you go for the job interview, you should look like you already work there. That's one of the ways that they know that, yeah, we should hire this guy. I can't believe you don't work here already. That kind of thing.
Exactly. You know what I mean? First impression, like, in that first split second, you're already thinking, like, this might be our guy. I think this might be our guy. Or you yeah. Take one look and you're like, I don't think so. Then that person's got to convince you throughout the whole interview that they might. But like, yeah. It's that first impression for sure.
I don't normally do this in my interviews, but I try to be responsive to what I feel is the Holy Spirit leading me. I am a proud follower of Christ, and anybody who doesn't like it, just watch something else. So as you were talking about your brand and your story, it reminded me of a verse. And so I pulled it up while you were talking. It's 1 Chronicles 19:13. And the situation was, the army of Israel was surrounded, and they were like basically in those situations where it's like, you know, do or die, right? So picture is almost like a 300 situation, right? And so the general of the army, Joab, said this quote that I've always kind of like had as like one of my life verses. It says, "Be strong. Let's use our strength for our people and for the cities of our God, and may the Lord do what seems good to him." And that's 1 Chronicles 19:13. And I see even more now that I've talked to you, that you are, even if you didn't know it ahead of time, you are living that verse out. And I got nothing but respect for what you do. So I want everybody to be able to find out even more about your brand. I want them to be able to apply for a job the right way if they can, if they're interested. So give people the contact information for Fit Ink, social media, website, whatever you want to tell them.
So you can find Fit Ink on Instagram at @_Fit Ink. And that's FITINK. You can find me on Instagram at Travis_Fit Ink. And then Fit Ink on the web is fitink.net.
Hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Travis. As I said, he has an awesome and amazing home gym tour that's available on our YouTube channel. So you can check that out right there. See you next time.